All right, welcome everyone to the CX in the Wild podcast, video podcast here. Today I have a very special guest, Adrian Valenzuela. He is the VP of AmplifAI. But before we get into the brand stuff, Adrian is a good friend of mine. I met him a few years ago at an event. We struck up a little conversation. We talked about our journeys together. He was interested in my evolution as a creator, and I was really interested in his background because he started on the front lines in the customer care industry, just delivering those smiles one at a time. And now he's the vice president of a very innovative group. This group is business that focuses on making people better so that organizations can be better, which I think is a nuance that is often missed in the industry. So with all that said, Adrian, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. Appreciate it.
All right, sir, we're going to dive right into these questions. So, what I really want to know is, can you talk to me about your journey from the front lines to the C-suite? How did that go for you? Like, first of all, not everybody wants to move off the front line into the thick of an organization or the industry. What inspired you to do that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question because you're right. What we typically see in this industry is, once you're an agent, you might move up and become a supervisor or go into quality. I think the pivotal moment for me where I realized that I did enjoy the aspects of what come with being a leader was, when I first became an agent. At that time, I was supporting UPS and managing, packages being tracked. And this was way back then. So you really needed to call in and find out exactly where your package was at. You didn't have text message updates, but it was a difficult job. And being 16 years old, not only did I have to navigate all of these new systems, but also be able to navigate these conversations with folks that were a lot older than me. But I enjoyed the challenge, and I think the pivotal moment for me was when I transitioned into becoming a floor coach. So now I was helping my peers, right, and even folks that were older than me, because again, I was 16. I was I was able to work there through a program through my high school. So a lot of the other agents were older than me, but I looked at it as a challenge, being able to help others that were older than me, and something that I found exciting with navigating multiple systems, but at the same time being able to handle those conversations and let the customers know that everything's going to be okay.
You touched on there, you were mentoring people older than you. Certainly, as a young person, I've been a young man. There's like this desire to flex and be popular or be good at what you do, stature, all of those things. But it's kind of intimidating to do at a new job
Yeah.
and in an environment where everyone's older. You're sort of proving yourself at the same time as you're trying to establish yourself as a leader. What is it, do you think, that gave you that drive to share so much of yourself?
I really think it kind of goes down to like the commitment of continuous learning, right? I found something that I was really good at a young age. I wanted to prove myself. It was my first job, so I wanted to be successful at it as well. But I think the gratification I got out of helping others that were older than me really like helped me feel that I was bringing something to the table, something new, something fresh. And, you know, uh, I think it kind of just stuck with me and being able to help not only my peers that were agents on the floor, but I knew that I was impacting those on the other side. I knew that I was impacting the customers, that they were getting what they needed. And I don't know, it gave me a good sense of gratification that I was able to give that to them. But at the same time, helping others, knowing that when they get that next phone call, when they get that next interaction, they have learned something from me that will allow them to kind of get through that a lot easier and not need the support moving forward.
And so you moved on from the call centers, but now you're servicing call centers. And what I happen to know about AmplifAI is it really aligns to this origin story that you have. But even me having been exposed to AmplifAI quite a bit, how does your work life experience and philosophy or your your desire to help others. How does that translate into your day-to-day job now with Amplify's mission?
No, I think it's a really good question. I mean, what we're doing here at Amplify, right, is we're providing data-driven strategies for frontline workers to understand how they can improve their performance. And our goal isn't really necessarily looking at the metrics and the number of the percentage of that metrics of what you've achieved, but how can we improve those different behaviors to allow them to be top performing agents, right, or top performing team leads and supervisors. So it's a bit interesting thinking about what I'm doing here at Amplify and how I apply that to my team, because again, we're in sales, so at the end of the day it's all about the number, right? It's all about what you close. So I take the same approach that we see with our customers and what we're delivering to them through our solution, the same way that I work with my team. I'm going to
So
look at. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to jump in because so much of what we just said, if you're the listener, you're like, yada, yada, I've heard all this. We
Yeah,
improve, we make front lines better, we look at metrics, we're contemplating performance, we're trying to push it down and out, or whatever it is people do with all these metrics. And I got to tell you, everybody's going to measure something.
yeah,
Everybody's got this story. But what I know about you and I know about the teams that you work on is, yes, the metrics are important, but your whole ethos of your brand, because I don't know if you remember, but I was able to interview your CEO a while
yeah.
back, and I got to really hear about his origin story and how he got into this sector of the business. And he came through it through evolution of career milestones, technology implementations, and a way to apply technology to people. And what I think is great about the matchup of you and Sean is you bring the inborn, instilled focus on making people around you better. And I don't think Amplify is as much a technology solution in the industry as it is a philosophy
Yeah.
of applying technology to make humans better at making other humans better. And I think what you've always done in your career, if I've listened to you over the years, is you've always just focused on making humans better.
Oh, I think you're right on that for sure. I think, you know, my leadership philosophy has always been centered around like empowerment and continuous learning, right? Because I had to do that myself. I had to bring on the challenge of learning what a floor coach did to do it well. I had to understand what it took to be a supervisor, a team lead, and do it well. And I couldn't do that just by, applying for the job and getting it and making sure that I hope I'm being successful. My approach has always been, again, being that I came at this from such a young age, was utilizing different technologies that were given to me and trying to understand how I can align different individuals and empower them as leaders themselves within my team and really hone in on that and work on them on areas of improvement. So one, we're driving with a good strategy around what are they good at? What can we have them lead with? How can I empower them to be a leader within themselves? So that's the same approach that I kind of take with my team now today, but then also leveraging technology to unlock that additional potential and leveraging even AI within my team, right? Like, how can we start understanding more about our customers so we can speak their language? Because to your point, Dennis, all the solutions out there today sound like they're providing the same outcome, right? So, how can we ensure that we're not focused necessarily on, the features or focused on the same terms that everyone is using, but really talking to our customers and unlocking the potential of aligning with them where it makes sense.
So true. And I want to ask you some deeper questions about this because adaptability, and you talked about playing to people's strengths. But I think I would challenge or add on that it's not just playing to people's strengths, it's playing to people's ability to fail. It's playing to their failures. These measurements, they do two things. They tell you where you're doing well, and they're telling you where you're not doing well. And I think great leaders look at what's not going well and embrace that. And they use the metrics as a way to understand what's not going well as opposed to trying to hold people accountable. How does Amplify, the work you're doing, the technology, how does it teach instead of discipline
No, I
people?
think really, really good question. I think one thing, right? Once you have Amplify integrated, it's providing AI driven analytics, which is pinpointing exactly on the areas of development for your team. So one, it's going to highlight exactly where your team has areas of opportunities, but it's also going to look across all of that data to highlight what they've been doing well and what actual changes they've made. So at the forefront, we're always going to recognize and provide that recognition because that's really important, right? We want to continue to drive again on what individuals are doing well and highlight them as being a leader, being someone on the team, whether they're an agent, a frontline agent, or a supervisor, or a team lead, highlighting what they're doing well and how they're improving their metrics. But most importantly, what we're doing is ensuring that we're providing targeted coachings, utilizing all the data because we're in an era where there is a lot more data than there's ever been before.
So
And
true.
really, let's be honest, what we've seen in this industry in the last 2, 3, 4 years is it's been around a lot of self-service, around a lot of automation, around a lot of areas of improvement. But what that's done, it's relieved those easier interactions that actually hit an agent. So now we have complex interactions that are now hitting those agents, which also translates into complex coachings. We haven't provided any type of solution that can guide a team lead to understand, hey, these are the type of interactions that are coming in for your program or for your team. These are the areas that you should focus on that you'll see the highest return based on how all of your agents are performing. And that's what we're doing. We're providing those targeted coachings and ensuring your team's efficiency, and effectivenessly continuously by providing them those data points without having them to understand data like a data scientist. I mean, that's what we're really doing here.
So how is that different from when you were coming up through the industry? I've never worked in a call center. I've filmed in a lot of call centers. I've
Yeah.
spoken to a lot of agents, but I've never been a person who has walked a mile in those shoes and had to learn from others. How did it get done back in the day?
Yeah. So probably a little bit similar to what's happening today, outside of just additional systems that have been incorporated. But I'll tell you this, just from personal experience, I can probably answer this two ways. One, when I was on the BPO side, because I think it's really important to highlight the the pain points on the BPO side and then the pain points that you see on the client side. One, on the BPO side, I always had the client coming to us and asking us for updates around specific metrics, but never really truly understanding the impact that it had for that client, right? Because all we're focused on is performance and the interactions that are hitting our site. So, I mean, it was around looking at workforce management, understanding agent availability, looking at QA performance, looking at operational performance, looking at, I've worked on sales programs as well. So looking at conversion hour over hour and looking at my top performers. And my main goal at that time, right back in my day, was how can I get rid of my admin work so I'm readily available to answer any of my agents' questions, do side by sides, be able to look up and down the aisle. As soon as the hand goes up, I know I'm racing over there because I don't want us to lose that sale. I'm getting a little excited, so forgive me, but that's what that felt like. But then when I transitioned over to the client side, I now understood why our vendor manager or our director was constantly emailing us, constantly sending us messages, was because it impacts the organization at a larger scale. And that's where I believe as a leader, I started to really understand, okay, I get why they were reaching out to us. But now I have at the top of my mind, when I transitioned over to the client side, how can I empower my vendors, my BPOs that we outsource to now know what I know and to make them successful? Because if they're successful, we are successful. So if we don't provide the right solutions and really leverage technology to make us more efficient and effective, we're going to still be scrambling like we were 10, 15 years ago, right? And
So let me try to see if I understand what you're saying. You said in the old days there was a lot of administrative paperwork and reporting.
yeah,
That really it's an impediment to providing personal relationship learning with those on your team. And it's a necessary evil. And whenever that wasn't a problem, you were able to get up and down the line, talk to people, create positive growth by sharing your knowledge in context on a call or in the environment to guide people. It also gave you a lot of real-time feedback from each of your team members to see who was actually needing more or less coaching. Now, fast forward, Amplify, as the example, is a tool that provides all of this. Maybe it doesn't provide all of it. It tries to synthesize the data so that the supervisor has more relief in terms of time to spend on the floor working calls and learning in real time. But it also helps the supervisor understand the needs, the strengths, and the opportunities of every individual person. Am I following along
Yeah,
properly?
that's correct. So, to kind of summarize everything that I was saying, I mean, not every supervisor will do this, but what I would do to be successful was show up 2 hours before my shift. That's no pay to get my admin work out of the way. Fast forward to now, if I had Amplify back then, or even now, right? Because the problem hasn't gone away. If anything, it's a lot more difficult for the frontline workers. But now having Amplify, I can log in at 8 o'clock, pour my cup of coffee, and by 8:05, I know at a team level what is my major focus and where I'm going to see the biggest improvements and where's my outlier as a team lead. I'm also going to know which agents I need to focus on, prioritize based off their previous performance, and know exactly which behavior I'm going to recognize that they've improved on, but also which behaviors I'm going to coach them on that will be targeted to improve them, right? So I'm more effective and efficient throughout my day. So I'm going to have more time to spend coaching because there's still a human element to this, right? All of these self-service tools that we're giving, even agent real-time assist, what those tools are doing are guiding an agent through certain interactions. But when it comes to coaching, we're building that human element on top of building that continuous learning environment where they're going to be self-sufficient and effective on their own post those coaching sessions.
So here's my hot take on this, which is we have so many tools, technologies, efficiencies. I mean, bro, I am so tired of all of the math and money and like that whole side of this whole conversation, the antiseptic industrial approach to customer experience. I know it needs to be there, but it's just not great for humans in general unless it's balanced with the rest of the story. And so many people are focused on that part of the story. And here I'm just ranting, but here's what I have to say, which is to your point, as we have technologies that are going downstream, the more downstream that we go, the more humanity needs to be upstream. And I'll sum it up like this: a computer is never going to be a role model for a human being. And agents look up to other people in the organization. They don't look up to tools. They don't look up to chatbots. They don't look up to paperwork. They look up to the human beings who are wise
Yeah.
about the clients and the conversations and solutions that result in smiles for customers. And I feel like what you and your teams are doing is, to simplify it, you're in the business of creating role models within customer care organizations. You utilize technology, but the bottom line is, I don't think that is actually why you and your teams are different. This is just me as the global voice of CX. I like you guys because I think you're really creating role models, but prove me wrong.
No, I think in that sense, yes, right? Because the goal is we're here to empower individuals to become leaders within themselves. I'll tell you, I've
Pause,
coached
pause.
men.
Wait. Let's let's unpack that beautiful thing. What did you just say?
So we're empowering agents and supervisors to become leaders within themselves. That's what we're doing here.
So it's not just creating role models. You're saying, wait a second. So you're saying the technology, the data that you provide isn't just upstream to supervisors. The agents become more self-aware and can
Correct.
self-improve.
Correct. So we know how difficult the job is, and for anyone that's ever been in a contact center, especially in person or even virtual, right? Because virtual, you lose a lot of that human interaction, and we
Yeah.
actually solve that void as well within our platform. But our goal is how can you talk to any agent, and I've done many roundtables with agents to try to understand like where we're at with performance and how can we improve it by hearing their voice, right? And allowing them to be a part of that leadership team. Because again, no one wants to show up to a job to not do a good job. So how can we empower them to become leaders within themselves to feel like I know that when I show up, I have the tool sets that I need to make improvements within my own performance. So we're highlighting what an agent is capable of doing, but also proactively providing them micro learnings, micro coachings, so that if they don't have an opportunity to meet with their supervisor, that doesn't mean that their learning needs to stop. That doesn't mean that they don't have the opportunity to make improvements so that they can hit goals, so they can hit their bonus, so they can feel good about the job that they did for that day. Because let's be honest, it could be very tiring being on an interaction after interaction and interaction, not even getting a chance to, catch a breath. But if you have a tool set that can say, hey, I know that you've been on shift this past week and you want to hit this X goal, these are the things that you need to do based off your performance. So again, our goal is to empower these individuals to become leaders in themselves, because not only is the agent's job difficult, but so is the team lead and the supervisor. And there are so many tools that are being implemented today that don't directly impact the employee experience. Sure, we talk about it a lot. Trust me, I've heard it at the last couple of years at all the events that I've been at. But I still have yet to see a platform that truly empowers an individual to feel like they're successful because they have the visibility and the insight into what they're doing and what that translates into. And that is one of the main driving factors as to why I joined Amplify, because I definitely feel that pain. I've been in their shoes and I want to be able to share what we can do to help others, so this job doesn't become something that they look at as being painful, but something exciting, and knowing that they're making an impact because they are the voice of that company. They are at that forefront when they're engaging with the customer, a representation. And that means a lot to them.
It's so beautiful what you said. So having said all that, I'm glad for you that you're in a place that aligns with your personal values. And honestly, I'm glad you're aligned in a time and era where technology plus your personal viewpoints and your job have a little bit of harmony. I hope it's always like that. But I want to get a little bit deeper into you, since we are on this podcast. And one of the things that I just admire about you, I've seen you all over the country and at different times. I've had a lot of interactions with you. How do you maintain your sense of humility and at the same time your aggressive ambition to hit numbers? Listen, you're a sales guy. I understand that. You get a little bit of a pass because you're on the front lines, but I think most people don't want to talk to sales guys. But you stay humble, you stay real, but you have to hit these numbers. How do you balance that in your own mind on a day to day? Like, it's got to be stressful.
That's a good question. And for a majority of part of my career, I was in implementation. So um, I felt the struggles on both ends. Felt the struggles of what sales had to deliver, but then what we had to build out during implementation for our customer success department to be successful. But to answer your question, you know, I think I'd have to say it's about embrace empathy, because there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And I would say, being relentless in my pursuit of learning and leveraging technology, not only for myself, but because I am a leader here at Amplify and I have a team that I need to be able to always be on the forefront and providing them guidance. I'd say leveraging technology to enhance my team's capabilities. And I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, and that's making sure that we're always speaking the language of where our customers are at and meeting them there. Not so much focused off the buzz of what's happening with all other solutions or talking about the capability of certain features, but really, again, meeting our customers as to what pains are they feeling and how can we solve them.
So are you saying that the way that you as a professional balance your personal and emotions and your have your objectives of the pressure of your objectives to meet sales is how you navigate that is you just simply stay focused on outcomes for customers?
I know now, kind of saying it back to me, it might seem a little bit very simple, but I think yes. When I mention embracing empathy, is because there will be a lot of ups and downs, right? And we're all humans at the end of the day. And when it comes to sales, it is probably the most toughest job out there. Um, and so that's why I say I'd stay relentless in my pursuit of learning. How can I continue to be sharp and understand what's happening in the industry to be able to provide guidance back to my team for us to hit our numbers?
It's funny because I always think of people saying learn from your mistakes, but what I hear you saying is you basically learn from your stress. You take the stress and you just try to learn from it. So if there's one takeaway, if anybody gets a chance to meet you in person, I would say learn from the stress. And I like this. I love these podcasts because I get a chance to learn things myself, but also hear this like these nuances of how people deal with life. And
Yeah,
I'm one of those people. I scroll a lot on social media, and what for whatever reason, like half of my 1/3 of my Instagram feed is like uh mental illness or mental help. The other third is gym bro stuff, and then the other third is like, believe it or not, it's baby hippos. Like I started sending my wife pictures of like baby hippos and baby goats. I'm over 50, so I get a pass on sending cute animal pics. But my point is, in all of that mental self help on the internet, I don't think I've ever heard someone say, learn from the stress, embrace the stress as a source of learning. So I really appreciate you bringing that to the podcast today. I think that really is a great philosophy for all of
yeah.
us. I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth,
And,
but
I, and I'll highlight one thing that I did this year that probably really um, shows that I embraced that myself truly, right? At the beginning of this year, I did a 3-day fast. You already know that I enjoy the gym and that's what I do. But on top of that fast, right, what I really learned from myself is that I can manage and turn that stress into positivity. How can I go throughout the day and really take in what I've been doing and look back at how I can make changes in the positive light? Because it was something stressful, but it actually was something very positive for me.
yeah. So you and I could probably do a whole Jim Bro podcast. But yes, being able to, if for anybody who goes to the gym, progressive overload is a mindset of a gym bro or a gym girl or fit girl. I don't know what the I don't know what the gender other term is, but for those who are in fitness, progressive overload, the idea of knowing that you go into this journey, that each step actually has to be harder if you want your body to adapt
Yeah.
to a new place. I think a lot of people miss that in the early fitness days. They're like, it's just diet or it's just exercise. But they don't realize if you don't increase the weight or the resistance, if you don't increase the resistance in your training, you don't get stronger. And I love that you've translated that into the world of customer experience. Couple of quick fadeaway questions. I just want to know, if I'm a leader in the customer care industry, and I could focus on one thing to self-improve in 2024, what would you recommend?
I would say, align your leadership like amplifies, and that's really focusing on empowering individuals. And not only will you achieve your goals, but foster a legacy of innovation. I think that's really important.
Yeah, foster a legacy of innovation. Oh,
Hey,
sorry,
that's why it's
it's
called
still
CX in the wild, so it's okay.
that's right. All right. Hey, pups, it's okay. All right, so CX in the wild. What a great cue. All right, so I think that's good advice for us, and I want to talk about my last thing, which is because I think aligning like amplify is one thing, but I want you to take down that guard, and I want to talk about if I'm an agent. Because here's the thing, Adrian, I've been out to the call centers around the world recently, and a lot of people are trying to do well for their families. They're
Yeah,
trying to. I know of a call center where people have to take a bus, like, and the public transportation is not very safe,
yeah,
and it's not very frequent. And I've talked to mothers who are like getting up in the darkness to go get on a bus, to work all day in a call center and get on a bus in the darkness at night to go back places that I wouldn't feel safe going, but they do it for their children and they do it for their families, their parents, everyone. And it takes courage, it takes dedication. It's definitely progressively resistant for those human beings,
yeah.
but they want to know. They want advice from somebody like you. Like, what can I do? How do I see what Adrian saw so I can be a vice president one day? What do you say to those people?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, right? Because what drove me to continue down, get personal, right? And that's what we're looking for here. So, what drove me to double down on this industry, and because I saw how well I was performing, was because I had my daughter at a very young age. So it was challenging. So I looked at it as I see that I can be successful, on not only as an individual, but empowering others through what I've learned through training and what I learned on, on actual production. And that's to note that at the end of the day, it's all human to human interaction. You know, as you're empathetic, as you embrace being, as you embrace being personable through your interactions, I think everything else will fall into place. And to your point, there's a lot that's happening behind the scenes for our frontline workers. I mean, you've traveled the world as you mentioned and saw different environments for different agents. I've luckily had the privilege to do the same myself. And I think when you go to these sites, right, and I absolutely love going to sites outside of the U.S. I just love the energy that they bring. Not to say that there isn't energy here, but it's a different ball game out there, right? And I can't I can't say enough how awesome it feels when you go there and you're there to support them, how much they'll embrace wanting to learn and do a better job. So again, I just look at it and say at the end of the day, it can be difficult throughout the day working through all these different interactions, but we're all human, right? And to understand it's never personable. I think that's the most important thing to know because it can be difficult leaving an 8-hour shift and probably working through some difficult conversations and trying to do the best that you can to support those customers. Um, but I would always say, like, at the end of the day, it's all human to human interaction.
I want to jump in there because you remind me of one of my secrets to success, which is the advice that you're giving me right now in the audience. My wife gave me similar advice. We were at this dinner table. I was in my 20s, like, oh my god, 25, 30 years ago. And we're at the dinner table and we get into this heated debate, and I really wanted to impress the table with how smart I was or what I knew or how right I was. And my wife just pulled me over and she whispered in my ear and she said, "It doesn't matter how right you are if no one likes you." And so what I realized is what you're saying. It is people. with other people in these work environments. It doesn't matter how right you are, how smart you are, how good you looked, how many calls you made, how many calls you didn't make if no one likes you. So I think empathy, being a good human being, it still plays even in this world of AI. Adrian, thank you so much for being here today. I'm going to follow you on your journey because I know you're going to go on to do great things. Thank you for being on CX in the Wild today.
Yes, thank you, Dennis. I appreciate the time.